All right, Packers fans, on the eve of padded practice, Jordan Love signs a record extension. Stick around to learn more about this historic deal and what it means for the next 5 years and beyond. Also, Rob and I will hit on some of the hottest and spiciest topics from the first week of training camp.
I've been wanting this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Hey. Ain't no errors, baby, it's a new era. I wake up early feeling rich like I'm cash.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Sounds Gouda. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. As always, we're super excited to be talking Packers football with you all. My name is Jordan Olson. My co-host here and best friend is Rob Ralph. Again, we're super excited to have you here, and we have new content coming out every Thursday on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So make sure to tell your friends. We'll be talking Jordan Love's contract today, and then we'll also be hitting a few takes from training camp. So, Rob, what is your initial reaction of this historic deal and big day for the Green Bay Packers and Jordan Love?
Yeah, I mean, right in line to where we thought what we thought he was probably going to get. Pretty cool to see the largest signing bonus ever given to a player for those 3 years. So yeah, I'm super excited. I know the defense has been getting after the backup quarterbacks here in training camp pretty well. So I know that first day he came back, thought maybe it would take him a day or two to get a little bit of that rust off of him. But he showed up there and was a little bit flat to start off with, but then ended up getting hot towards the end of that practice, and I think ended it on a touchdown. So it's good to have QB1 back, man. It's been a long time. We've waited for it. We all believe as Packers fans that he's ascending. So just super excited, pretty happy. I know that some of this, and this is according to Spot Track too, but some of these numbers, 2024, so this year, that's on his current contract. He'll be getting $20 million. 25, he's going to be getting $29 million. 26, $36 million. 2027, $42 million. 2028, $74 million. And then 29, $34 million. But that's a voided dead cap. So for those of you that don't know that, that's pushing money into the future for non-contract years. So I think this is going to be quite the bargain, Jordan, too. I think we all believe and know that with the popularity of the NFL in 27, the cap should explode, due to the CBA and media right deals too. So, you could see quarterbacks with an annual average of 70 million, right? Something getting up there. And, they are projecting that currently to go from 255 mil a year to 328 million. So that's an additional 73 million a year for the Packers to be able to play with. So just super excited, man. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't be any happier to see Jordan Love locked up as a Green Bay Packer for the near future. I think the biggest thing that I guess my biggest takeaway is I'm disappointed a little bit in the Packers front office, and I'm a huge Goody fan. I've been a huge fan of Mark Murphy, Russ Ball, the way that the Packers conduct business. I am sad that we let this be this close and drag on through almost an entire week of training camp, right? I think they got it done before the most important check mark, and that's before padded practice start. But it still would have been really nice to see him out there with the guys, slinging the rock, doing the real thing with everybody else on day one. So
do you think that was just Russ Ball trying to cook a little bit too much?
I think that, obviously the hold in was, they knew everybody knew a contract was going to be signed. And, of course you don't want any injuries or anything that might change all the framework of anything you're doing when you're signing a potential deal. Again, I think we alluded to before that the team and Jordan Love and his representation were probably haggling over a couple of things. The number of years on the contract and how much guaranteed money there would be. Essentially, this contract guarantees 3 full seasons or close to of the extension there, 155 million, meaning that fourth year of the extension is essentially non-guaranteed, kind of making this a 3-year extension. Him being under contract really in full for 4 years. I mean, it's 5-year deal, but with that 2028 cap hit being 74 million and something right now on some change, my guess is that they're going to rework that deal at some point in time, especially with that dead money there. I mean, the plan is, if everything goes according to plan, Jordan Love is QB1 in Green Bay for like the next 10 seasons. So I expect them to do something different with that money by the time we get to 2028. And even if they don't, that sounds like that will be the going rate for a QB1, a top 5 guy anyways. So they'll probably be figuring it out at that point in time. So that's my biggest takeaway. Super excited for Jordan Love, the Packers, the future of the team. Disappointed in the business side of things, but ready to put that behind us. What were some other things that you kind of picked up on about this deal? One thing that I found interesting is we're kind of recovering from a bunch of dead cap from previous seasons, right? I think we figured out that 46.5 million of this year's salary cap is dead cap money. From Bakhtiari, Jones, Douglas, Campbell, Savage, even a little bit of Josh Nijman money, which is like 18% of our cap. So what do you think Jordan Love's contract means for, beyond as we exit this dead cap period or kind of dead cap hell that we're in?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just going to be more money that, we're going to have for him, right? We have a lot of that dead cap this year, but going into next year, it looks like we only have 17.9 million due to Campbell for next year. So you're gaining 40 million in cap space. And as the cap continues to go up and whatnot, so that'll be really nice.
Hey, Rob, I'm gonna
Go
jump
ahead.
in. I think that's actually a typo that from in our notes, but I think it's only 7.9 million in dead cap right now. So that number's even smaller. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out. That's a
That's
big.
even better. Yeah. So that brings it to my point more too. Yeah. No, I think I put that out wrong. So 7.9 million due to Campbell next year. So just more money. You're gaining almost 40 million right then for this, and as the cap continues to go up, and especially in 2027, this is going to look like an absolute bargain. So this was the going rate. I know there's a lot of other different fans in the division that said that we have overpaid already. I've seen that all over X, but I believe that they did that same sort of thing with Rodgers as well. It was 7 games in or whatever it was before they started really getting into the contract stuff and the negotiations and whatnot. So this isn't like it's totally uncommon, and we all believe that he's ascending and is going to continue to play really well. Obviously, it's always a gamble with this type of stuff, right? You had one bad half of a season, and then you had one amazing half of the season. But I really feel like he's going to continue to cook, and it's going to work out really well here for the Packers in the next few years.
Yeah, and I think we'd be feeling a lot differently if the season was reversed. If he played amazing through 10 games and then ended with 8 bad weeks.
Yeah.
I think that we'd be feeling much different about this contract. But that's not how things worked out, and he figured it out, and he looked great going into the end of the year. And this is not a phrase that's unique to this podcast, but I mean, we're not paying contracts for past production. We're paying contracts for what we hope future production looks like. So Goody and Matt LaFleur have been believers in him since day one, obviously, when they're high-fiving and hooting and hollering in Green Bay's draft room, as Aaron Rodgers is pouring his tequila back in 2020. But they believed in him since then, and they're going to pay him like they believe in him now. So I'm in for it.
I'm going to put you on the spot. So I believe we all know what Jordan Love's floor is. What do you think his ceiling is, though? Do you think he can overtake a Patrick Mahomes, a Josh Allen here eventually? And I know we're going to be biased in our take, right? We're Packers fans, but if you had to be realistic, and it's hard to put your magic 8 ball on your future,
Mm-hmm.
in the future and be able to look and see that stuff. But like, what are your honest feelings? Because sometimes I'm like, well, man, he's so good, and I know he's ascending, but can he be
Mm-hmm.
the next Patrick Mahomes? I would like to believe so, but I'm also trying to temper expectations as well. It's an interesting conversation.
You know, I'm not even going to go that far and what his ceiling is and making him a Patrick Mahomes or a Aaron Rodgers comparison in terms of his talent, right? I mean, you're talking about two generational talents. Maybe the
It's a
guy
lot of
who's got the
pressure
most
too.
accurate arm in NFL history, and then another guy who just can create plays and just consistently is out there doing his thing for the Chiefs every week. I think that where I would go with it is I can see him being a Super Bowl winning quarterback, and I can see him in the conversation for MVP over the duration of this contract and beyond. If Brett Favre and his gunslinging mentality and his rocket balls can win him an MVP, multiple MVPs. I think Jordan Love is capable of winning one. Of course, he has to be in the right position to do so. Got to have the right guys around you. Got to have the right guy calling plays. We're all pretty big believers, and hopefully that's the situation that we have coming together here. So I could see a future where maybe he wins an MVP and maybe he wins a Super Bowl, and who knows? I'd go ahead and I'd take 2 Super Bowl wins from Jordan Love and no MVPs, and I would be equally as happy. But if that happens, we ended up just striking gold on QB1.
Yeah, yeah, and that Packers defense taking that next step up, right? So that would
Mm-hmm.
be nice.
Yeah, I did want to jump back into that cap situation for a minute. I did learn something new today, and actually, I'll shout out Andy Herman. I've been seeking this answer for weeks now. Our normal listeners know I've been seeking this answer. But what can we do with some of that salary cap money that we might not spend this year? Because it's not looking like, except for maybe at the deadline, that we're going to pick anybody else up. We're pretty happy with the depth that we have. We want the young guys to get the snaps. So if we go into next season and we have $20 million of cap that we didn't spend this year, there is a rolling cap rule. And essentially that's money that the Packers can spend next year, whether it's to re-sign our guys, and there'll probably be ample of them, especially if some of these wide receivers we have the years they expect. Zach Tom, some of our offensive linemen, our new cornerstones are going to need some money. So it's good to figure out that we can spend that money in the future. So how that works, essentially over a 4-year period, teams must spend at least 89% of their cap. If they don't, there's a penalty. They have to go back and they have to pay that to players who were on the rosters during that 4-year period. Essentially, it's not really an issue for any teams, but particularly the Packers. That we've been up against the cap. We've been figuring out how to make it work over the last few years, trying to extend the Aaron Rodgers window, recover from COVID. We have no concerns. So if we have $15-20 million going into next year, that's more money we can spend on what should be an increased cap anyway. So pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can get pretty lost in all the cap stuff, all the structure, everything. It can be quite complicated. I'll give a shout out to Ken Ingles on X. At least that's where I know him, who breaks all this stuff down beautifully in nice grids and easy to understand language. So if you're not following him, definitely do it. He makes it very digestible to be able to understand all the complexity that is all this cap stuff.
So we were talking, AVV or AAV, annual average annual value, the length of the contract. So it ended up being a 4-year extension, not a 5 or a 6-year deal. $55 million a year average annual value, which is tied with Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow. So how do you feel about the length of the contract, Rob? Do you, we've mentioned before that, probably in Jordan Love and his camp's best interest to have it be a little bit shorter deal and then work to reset the market again when he's going into that like age 30. How do you feel that works for the Packers?
Yeah, I mean, it's good for Jordan Love and for his camp too. I know he's getting quite a bit there. What is it? That last year that they might talk about restructuring, $28.74 million. So that's nice. I think it will be good for the Packers. That the 27 cap when that explodes, and due to the CBA and media rights stuff too, gaining a little bit more flexibility that way too, because they are going to have a lot of players coming up here, whether it's wide receivers, offensive linemen, defensive players, whatever it is that they're going to be able to need to sign these important contracts too as well. So I see it probably favoring Jordan Love a little bit more, but also they're pushing a little bit of some of this money out too as well. I think Russ Ball does a really good job as far as that stuff goes, and is able to negotiate that stuff just to be able to put them in a pretty decent spot. But I think it's about on par for what the Packers could get. I don't think they're in some critical spot or anything. And as stuff goes along, I think they'll be able to look at future negotiations and contracts for other players.
I just think it's going to become kind of the norm that quarterbacks are not going to sign 5 or 6 year deals, and they're going to try to go to market every 3 or 4 years. Because they know that quarterback money's crazy. You shouted out Russ Ball. I don't know who it was the total, you'd assume is Russ Ball, but the cap hits for 25, 26, and 27 are really team friendly, I think, in terms of a roster building standpoint. So in 2025, only a $20 million, nearly a $30 million cap hit, right? So if you're talking that the average annual value is 55 a season, you're only paying $30 million to your quarterback in that season. That gives you a lot of flexibility. The following year,
it's pretty nice,
$36 million, and in 27, the third year of that extension, $42 million. So you're still 10, 13, $14 million under that value number. Yeah, the Piper is going to be due in 27, but that gives you with 20 million cap hit in 24, and then those 3 really team friendly years after that, it gives you a really good chance to be really competitive and keep a lot of this core in this building, for second contracts for a lot of those guys.
Yeah, for sure. And gaining some of that money back from the dead cap too, from a lot of those players as well after this year. That'll help as well too. So no, that's a really good point.
Well, we're going to jump into training camp here. Rob, you got anything else you want to say about the Jordan Love deal before we put that behind us and just start talking straight Packers football?
I mean, it's almost football time, man. No, I'm excited. I'm glad it got done. I know it was a little bit longer than we expected. It didn't go into the preseason games, all that sort of stuff. So I know I'm trying to be glass half full here too as well. But just super excited, man. Excited for this team. Excited for this year. Excited that we got QB1 signed up and ready for football.
So my biggest takeaway from camp so far. And, we talked about it on this show. There's been a lot of talk about Jordan Morgan being a tackle, but I think for the last 4, if not 5 days in a row, he has started with the ones in the walkthroughs and team periods at right guard. Sean Ryan has moved over to left guard. I know that there's been some healthy scratches and some non-football reasons that we've had some linemen missing. But that's been the shuffle. So Jordan Morgan would have had ample opportunities to fill in at right tackle with the likes of Dillard or Kadeem Telfort now getting reps over there, but they've been pretty content with him at right guard and trying to get him comfortable at that position. So, you think he can stick there going into week 1, Rob?
I
Or
mean, that's
as
what
or
we.
as we get healthy, do you think that he ends up being a backup in that role?
It's hard to say. They're definitely giving him the reps there too, and all signs would point to that, and that would kind of go into some of our previous episodes too of our take of him probably getting the shot there at right guard. Um, I think so. I think that's where it's trending right now, but I think there's still a lot of training camp left, a lot of preseason stuff. Hopefully, no injuries and all that sort of stuff still yet to work its way out. But the early signs and indications would be that's where they like him. That's where they like him the best. And I think he can stick there and crack the top 5 to start the season. What about you? What do you think?
Well, I still predicted it a couple weeks ago. I think if Jordan Morgan can play well in the preseason, that he might take that spot. But um, there's been chatter um, about Elton Jenkins moving to center, getting that opportunity. Probably at least worst case scenario if you have Josh Myers miss an extended amount of time. That's probably your lineup. You probably go Rasheed Walker, Sean Ryan at left guard,
Left
Elton
guard.
Jenkins at center,
Yeah.
Jordan Morgan at right guard, and Zach Tom at right tackle. I think the tackles are going to stay exactly like we finished last season. That's just my gut right now, is that going into week 1, it's Walker at left tackle and it's Tom at right tackle. And I think the interior is up for debate. So,
Yeah, and I mean, like, I know we signed Andre Dillard, but he's been getting his butt whooped so far
oof. Gary's
by
been
Rashan
making
Gary.
him, which
Yeah,
Kadeem Telford has been getting reps over there, which is great. A great story. If Kadeem Telford can become our primary swing, um, he's a second year player out of UAB. He's a huge man. He's like 6'7", 322 pounds. Actually, shout out to Kadeem Telford. He's the one who gave up his 77 to our number 1 pick, Jordan Morgan. So he could be happy when he came in. I think Telford's wearing number 76 or something like that now. But it would just be another great example of an undrafted find. The Yash Nijman trajectory. We just keep churning them out. So pulling for Kadeem Telford to win that swing tackle role. Then all the stuff we're talking about on the interior is totally in play. So
yeah, for sure. And then I mean, like, another thing of note too, as well, is Evan Williams is looking like a floor general out there. I know he's not getting quite the bulk of the starts, but I think Anthony Johnson Jr., at least during mini camps and OTAs, because he had more knowledge of the defense, probably was getting some more of those reps. But I know Bullard has been getting some spots too there next to McKinney. McKinney's obviously going to start. There's no way out of that one. We paid him enough money to be that starter. So it's we talked about this, and I believe some previous episodes too. But this is always kind of a fantastic or unique and fantastic type of way of looking at this competition. But just the stuff I've been hearing from down on the floor or at training camp is that Williams is looking like the real deal. It's getting a lot of buzz, and that's just not from one person. That's multiple different people, and especially people on the internet. What do you think about Williams taking some of that buzz and doing well with it, Jordan?
well, it's not bad. That's what I can tell you. Um, I I'm intrigued by Williams. Honestly, it goes back to when we drafted him, and one of Oregon staffers was like, "You're getting the best player on this defense," and we knew right then it wasn't for what the way he tested or his measurables. But I had a strong feeling that was for his grit and his knowledge, the intensity that he brings, and it certainly seems that he brings all of those things to the field. You hear other players talking about his communication skills, and already as a rookie putting people in the right places to be successful. I think that's huge. Will he beat out Bullard? I don't know, but it certainly seems like Goody and the Packers staff have found another great option in Evan Williams. I still have a huge crush on Catano Ladapo. He's not been able to be out there yet. It'll be really interesting to see what happens when he gets in the mix, although at this point in time, he's going to be pretty far behind Williams and even AJJ on the pecking order. But it's exciting. If Goody hit on another fifth rounder, I think that would be like 3 years in a row where a fifth rounder becomes a starter or an impact player at some point in time in year one. I mean, the guy's on a heater. I don't know what else to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, like we were talking about from before, his play always gave me kind of Micah Hyde vibes, for sure. So, and if we can get another Micah Hyde, that would just be an absolute home run. So, super excited for this and super excited for the continued competition at safety and really intrigued for what that's going to mean for the preseason games.
Yeah, going from some really bright spots there and some intriguing battles to just flat out ugly. How about the quarterback play so far? I mean, not talking about Jordan Love. Jay Love is back, our savior, the $220 million man. But what's going to happen if we have to get to a spot where Sean Clifford or Michael Pratt are playing QB? Or how are you feeling about that, Rob?
Well, it's early, right? So, I know Jordan likes to keep me pretty level headed. So I'm not trying to read too much into it, but it's been pretty bad. And by pretty bad, I mean really bad. Multiple picks, multiple sacks. It hasn't been good. You really hope and pray that nothing happens to QB1, Jordan Love, for sure. I think that would basically ruin the season, I think. But you never know. I mean, Clifford showed out quite a bit last year during some of those preseason games and whatnot too. So you can easily turn it around. It's still early enough. You're going to have some bad days, and it sounds like there's been multiple bad days, but it's definitely been quite uninspiring. So let's just hope that Jordan Love continues to stay healthy. And this offense can cook a little bit against this defense. But that just makes me just that much more excited about the defense too, right? They've been looking real good, especially up front. I've been hearing a lot about that too, about how they're just getting such good pressure up front. So that's amazing. So it just makes me, in the backup quarterback, so I understand that too, but that just makes me extra excited for this defense. I'll believe it more when we see it in the real games for sure. But yeah, let's just hope nothing happens to Jordan Love.
You got to wonder if Clifford's feeling the pressure of Michael Pratt and is pressing a little bit early in camp here, right? Like last year, there wasn't another viable backup quarterback option on the roster. He probably knows that Goody is pretty attached to his draft picks in year one. He probably felt pretty secure to just come in and learn and kind of cook in that role. There's no guarantee that there's going to be 3 quarterbacks kept on this roster. So you got to wonder if Clifford's pressing a little bit. And then just Michael Pratt. Don't put too much stock into anything from him in the first couple weeks. He's learning a lot, probably like drinking out of a fire hose right now. I think the talent is there. But if we had to start the season with one of those guys as a starter, I'd be worried right now. So let's hope the backup QB play improves over the next few weeks. Just another note, I know there's a lot of excitement over what we've seen from the defense so far. Let's just say that hopefully the defense is playing so well that that's why these backup quarterbacks are struggling so mightily. But I'm gonna wait a little while to give the defense their flowers. I still want to see it happen over the course of a couple regular season games. But the trajectory, the arrow's pointing up on the defense right now.
Nothing makes my heart filled more than top Packers defense in the mold, for sure. We need to see it, no doubt. But and they're gonna go up against some really really good competition that's gonna put them to the test. And I think you were saying this on the previous episode too, but I could see a little bit of them struggling a few games maybe here and there to start out where they're learning everything. And then let's hope they catch fire towards the, at least by the halfway of the season and continue to go on from there into the playoffs, into the Super Bowl, right? For sure. But there's gonna be some ebbs and flows as there is with the offense or anything too. So, but it does make me extremely excited to see this, and it's probably what I'm the most excited about going into this.
Yeah, I think the joint practices and the reports we get from there are going to be more telling as to where this defense is at in their development. They're going to be going up against players from other teams. It's going to get physical, and somebody else outside of the organization's calling plays. So that'll be coming up in a couple weeks, and I'll look forward to some reports from there. But one other thing about defense, I can't wait to see Rashan Gary on the field. Early reports are that he's tearing it up, multiple sacks. He's in the backfield all the time. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about it, but I'm really excited for Rashan Gary. And if he's fully recovered from his injury and had a full off season of training and prep, I continue to hope and expect a monster year from Rashan Gary.
Yeah, for sure. Not only that, but Preston Smith and year 2 of Lucas Van Ness. And, obviously we dodged a bullet with Enagbare too, right? Being available already for the start of the season and OTAs and training camp too. So yeah, just super excited for the defense. So, well, speaking of that, just a few closing notes. Not too much here, but we did want to mention, and I'm sure we're all excited and chomping at the bit, but 9 days away from the time that this is released, August 10th, the first preseason game against the Browns. So cannot wait for that. Can't believe that it's almost August. Feels like the summer has kind of flown by. And just also wanted to let you guys know too that we'll have a few guests lined up in the next few weeks. So just know that we look forward to those shows as well. So we want to give a big shout out to some new subscribers too as well. Hopefully I don't butcher these names as I've been accustomed to doing, but Barrage Moham and Stephen Robacker. And then wanted to give a big shout out to our super fan, Gary Petrick. I know he's been giving me some good videos and some good pictures and stuff down there from training camp. And he himself told me that he was at the shareholders meeting and learned a lot of really good things and got some news and information from Ed Policy too. So pretty exciting that way. We wanted to give you a big shout out, man. We really appreciate you. Really appreciate you always engaging with us and our stuff for our show too. So really appreciate you, Gary.
Rob, before you close this out, I got to take my medicine too. I would be remiss to mention that my preseason undrafted player lock, Peter Bowden, is no longer on the roster. We used his spot after we cut him to sign a quarterback, Jacob Eason, which is a camp arm. So who knows? Maybe with Jordan Love gone, maybe my guy Peter Bowden will find his way back onto the roster. Maybe that was just some kind of hey, if we got to cut a guy, nobody's going to pick up a long snapper, so that's our safest option. But I had to take my medicine on that. I'll have to go to Donovan Jennings, my secondary pick, as my hope for an undrafted player to make the roster. So.
Yeah, and as soon as I saw that too, I'm like, oh man, Jordan's gonna be pissed about that one. But hey, man, you just never know. You never know how that stuff's gonna work out, even when you think a player's gonna be a lock. You never know, So. Well, guys, we appreciate it. Just always know that we will continue to have good Packers content every Thursday. We are here on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So if you're on YouTube, if you can, please make sure to like and subscribe. Tell a Packer friend or two. We are on X as well. It's down here below on the banner. I am at Robber79. Jordan is at Olson Jord. So really appreciate you guys being able to follow us on there and engage as well. I really appreciate you guys coming on and taking some time to listen to us. And until next time, Packers fans, we hope you have a good morning, a good afternoon, and a good night. Thanks, guys. Go Pack, go.
Been wanting this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, move